When MicroStrategy moved over 500,000 Bitcoin onto its balance sheet, it wasn't just a high-stakes bet on Bitcoin, it cracked open a multi-trillion-dollar market, a new way to grow your business tenfold without hiring, stock buybacks, mergers, or risky acquisitions. And one that's forcing the shareholders and CEOs of giants like Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and Facebook to rethink everything they thought they knew about finance. In this episode of Bitcoin Backstage, we'll break down the boldest financial pivot in corporate history and how Michael Saylor kicked off a space race to capture the $153 trillion fixed income market using Bitcoin. Let's mine deep. So, what is Strategy's strategy? Strategy raises money by issuing convertible bonds. No, not that one. A convertible bond is like a loan that you give a company, to which they pay you interest on, but with a special addition. If the stock price goes up, you have the option to convert the bond to shares of that company, potentially making you way more money than just the interest alone. The magic? These convertible bonds took MicroStrategy out of just the Bitcoin and stock market and into the bond market. Before Saylor's move, the bond market and fixed income funds had zero access or exposure to Bitcoin. But with Strategy's corporate bonds backed by the performance of his stock and hence tied to Bitcoin itself, it's like Saylor has built a financial wildfire that's running circles around other types of fixed income products. And for one of the deepest markets in the world, this is a big deal that has institutional capital doing a double take. But on the flip side, you have a slew of investors and traders looking to stand in the way of Saylor's strategy. Just last week, fund manager Jim Chanos, known for shorting Enron before its spectacular collapse in 2001, made a bold move. He announced that he would be shorting Strategy and going long on Bitcoin, arguing that the premium on its stock price versus the value of Bitcoin it holds per share is too high. While it's up to the market to decide if Jim is right or wrong, it highlights an interesting wrinkle that is a tailwind for Bitcoin treasury companies, as highlighted by Bitwise Jeff Park. The belief that Bitcoin or Bitcoin treasury companies could go to zero actually makes these bonds worth more because of the implied volatility. Why? Because Wall Street can't resist speculating on this trade of the century. Will the Bitcoin trade work out? Will it collapse? And with all that speculation comes price volatility. Volatility drives down the interest payments on the convertible bonds, paradoxically letting companies purchase more Bitcoin cheaply to drive volatility, which drives down interest on convertible bonds, and you get the picture. And it's not just Strategy running this playbook. Companies like Semler Scientific, 21, and Japan's Metaplanet racing to acquire Bitcoin the same way, with massive success.
Now, this is our market cap over the last 20 years. For nearly 2 decades, it barely moved. Can you guess when we adopted the Bitcoin standard? In just 12 months, we've gone from near zero to over 1.4 billion in market cap.
And now, the wielder of financial wildfire himself is now making the case as to why Microsoft needs to adopt Bitcoin as a treasury asset or risk being left behind.
And so Microsoft would prosper on a Bitcoin standard. You can see here, your ARR, goes from 10% growth rate to nearly 16%. You're increasing the growth of the company, you're decreasing value at risk, you're creating value, you're de-risking the entire equity. All you have to do is embrace a new capital idea. So do the right thing. It's good for your customers, good for your employees, good for your shareholders, good for the country, good for the world, good for your legacy.
So why should you care? The world is waking up to the Bitcoin treasury strategy, and now dozens of companies are staking their claim of the 21 million supply. But even with the hundreds of billions in cash that giants like Apple, Google, and Microsoft are sitting on, their window to adopt this strategy is closing fast. Hundreds of Bitcoin company CEOs, sovereign wealth funds, and foreign listed companies are scooping up clips of 1,000 Bitcoin nearly every week. And if Bitcoin becomes the hurdle rate for capital in the coming decade, these titans will be forced to rethink their balance sheets, or the market will do it for them. Bitcoin is eating the world, and nothing stops this train. If you're stuck spending dollars, at least stop earning fiat rewards. Use Fold and earn Bitcoin on everyday spending, groceries, travel, even paying bills. And take advantage of Bitcoin rewards with merchants you might already shop with. It's the easiest way to stack sats. So, if you're in the United States and you don't have Fold yet, what are you doing? Buy, earn, and save in Bitcoin, all in one app. Fold is the ultimate toolkit for making Bitcoin savings a daily habit. Now, let's go backstage at the Bitcoin conference to hear from Michael Saylor himself on why Bitcoin is better.
What made me talk about Bitcoin as a lifeboat?
Well, that you used Bitcoin as a lifeboat and it was the only option MicroStrategy had.
Yeah, because it's an exit from currency debasement and a financial crisis, and it's also an exit from entropy in a physical world.
What is your input in the Bitcoin circular economies around the world that try to adopt it in their daily lives?
Well, I think Bitcoin is an economic foundation or capital foundation for every economy. So I would suggest that everyone use Bitcoin as their savings account. And then when you want to spend money in Argentina or Turkey, you just convert the day of into the local currency. So I expect over time you'll see a lot of balance between stable coins and local currency and long-term capital assets like Bitcoin. And you need both if you're going to be successful.
And will we see hyper-Bitcoinization, or what needs to happen in order for us to see it?
I expect Bitcoin to increase to the point where it's somewhere between 7 and 20% of all the world's assets. But I think that there will still be a world with other assets. There will still be currencies and bonds and equities and property. And in that particular world, I think we'd maximize the productivity and the wealth and the prosperity of everybody involved. I think that Bitcoin is going to grow until it's the principal monetary index of the world and everybody is going to use it as their cost of capital. I think that'll be hyper-Bitcoinization.
So is the Lightning Network a perfect scaling solution for Bitcoin? Do you see multiple layer 2 technologies for Bitcoin?
I think that Bitcoin's an open protocol, so Lightning is the best known and it's in flux, and I think it's a good solution, but I think that there'll be a lot of competition and there'll be lots of other people offering layer 2 protocols, and I applaud all of that innovation. I think it'll take us to a better place.
Out of all of the conspiracy theories out there, which one do you believe to be one that is true?
I think Satoshi was sent from the future to save us from ourselves. A lot of people are trapped in the existing system. And so if you want all of your families and institutions and corporations to be saved, then we need to integrate Bitcoin into the systems that they're dependent upon. I think that Bitcoin will be a 1,000x more successful if it's integrated into the world as opposed to apart from the world.